Oh, this is gonna be so good.
Yeah.
Listen, I'll ask about Arizona, and you
Okay.
can ask about the student organizing. Oh, the thesis. Do you want to do it? Or should I'll do the thesis. I want to ask about the
Okay.
thesis. Okay.
Yeah, that
Um.
sounds good.
Okay. Perfect. I think she's gonna be ready in a couple minutes. So, is everything okay, Lauren?
Michelle, I need to tell you something.
What? What is it?
I can't do this anymore.
What? You want us to postpone?
No, like the podcast at all. Like I can't do it anymore.
We'll do it another day. It's fine.
No, like I can't do this at all anymore. I'm sorry.
Did I do something
No,
wrong?
no, Michelle, it's not you. It's me. I'm really sorry, but
What am I supposed to do, Lauren?
I'm sorry, but
We
you're
have
on your own.
we have
I'm so
an
sorry.
Lauren! Lauren! Hanan,
Yeah, what's up?
are you free right now?
Yeah, for a minute, what's up?
Oh, have you ever done a podcast before?
No, not really. Why?
You think you could do one potentially, hypothetically?
Maybe I can think about it.
Amina? All right, listen, just stay here 1 second.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Hanan.
And I'm Lauren. We have some exciting updates here at the Shoot Command podcast. Hanane is now joining us as co-host with Michelle. It's not as dramatic as we made it seem before. It really isn't you, Michelle. It really is me. No, I'm stepping away and I'm taking some time to work on some personal projects. I have some short films and documentaries that I'm working on. So that's what's taking up a lot of my time these
We
days.
look forward to interviewing you on Shu Command.
Inshallah. I sure hope so. I'd love to. I'm so excited to hear the new episodes you'll have coming up.
No, that's really exciting, Lauren. We're super happy for you and
Thanks. I'm really excited.
It's been great, Lauren. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Shu Command Student Corner. My name is Michel.
And I'm Hanan, and today we have Gabi Saba, a second-year math student at the Center for Contemporary Arab Studies. Welcome, Gabi.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you, Gabi.
I'm very excited.
Good. How's it going? How's your day been?
It's going well. It's been a good day. It's a bit chilly for me, but
Right.
I'm enjoying it.
Right, really windy today.
A little bit, yeah.
So, Gabi, we wanted to start the interview off by asking you a pertinent question about
Okay.
country music. Has there been any country songs that you've specifically enjoyed recently?
Recently, I've been in a Sturgill Simpson, Tyler Childers kind of mood, and I think it's because of the weather. It
Okay.
makes me feel very folksy, very
Okay.
outdoors. So specifically, I Don't Mind by Sturgill Simpson has
I Don't
been
Mind by
on
Sturgill
repeat.
Simpson.
But I will say, Michelle, that is not my main genre of music.
I know.
Despite the cowboy boots that I wear every day,
Right.
I have been on kind of a 70s kick recently. So
What have you been enjoying?
a lot of Fleetwood Mac. Yeah, I feel like it's very seasonal, but yeah.
Okay. Did you grow up listening to any of that music?
I grew up listening, actually, yes. So my mom is a big country music person. So I remember being little, we would always have road trips and she would play a George Strait CD in the car. And that was her favorite music.
I never heard of it.
George Strait. He's an American classic. He's very, very well known. And then James Taylor, which I feel like
Oh,
is
I know.
kind of country. Yeah. And then folksy, exactly. But then my dad was always really into 80s rock music. So his thing was Scorpions, and he listened to a lot of Guns N' Roses,
Sure.
and
Any David Bowie.
Led Zeppelin. Not really David Bowie, no. But it was interesting because that was he was oh, this, being in Lebanon, this is what my friends all listen to
was the shit.
also. Yeah.
Wait, Gabi, so you're Lebanese, but you grew up in Arizona and other parts of the world. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so I was when I was born, my parents were actually living in Dubai, and we lived in Dubai for 9 years, and then so I was in elementary school in Dubai, and then we moved to Qatar after that, and I did all of middle school in Qatar in Doha. And then so all of my mom's family immigrated with her parents' generation. So her dad and his family came from Lebanon, and her dad's dad, so my great jiddo, he drove a beer truck from Mexico to Southern California, and they were all living in Mexico, waiting to immigrate into the
Wow.
United States.
So it was his job to deliver beer.
Yeah, so he was a beer truck driver. And then when they were finally able to get their papers, they came into the United States, and they lived in Brawley, California, which is a small town in Southern California. So my mom's family has been here for a while, and they're kind of spread out all over across the United States. My dad's family all lives in Lebanon still. So when we were living overseas in the Middle East, we were a lot closer to my dad's family than to my mom's family. And my mom finally decided, I really want to be close to my parents. I want to be close to my siblings. And she was like, I want the kids to be close to their cousins also. And we used to go to the States every summer. And so we moved to Arizona, which is where my grandparents on my mom's side live.
Okay. And it seems you've acclimated very well to the move, right? You've adopted the culture.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always been a very adaptable person just because of how I was raised. And my parents were always very clear about the fact that the countries that we're living in are not really home. Like, these places are not home. Your home is where your family is. And I've always internalized that, and I've never really conceptualized a physical place as my home. Because for me, home felt like, oh, wherever my mom and my dad and my siblings are, that's where my home is. So then when we moved, it was really easy to kind of relocate mentally as well and say, well, now my home is Arizona. And I enjoyed Arizona. I think it was an easy transition because we had family there already and we had friends there already. And then the other thing that made it really easy was the church. And everywhere I've lived, there's always been an Orthodox church that we've been a part of. My mom, her faith is really important to her. And it was important to her to instill faith in us as well. And so even when we were living in Qatar, all of the churches are on the same campus. They're on this little campus. You have to go through security to get inside. We used to have to drive 20 minutes, 30 minutes to get there. But every Sunday we would go. And she told me once, and I've always remembered this, she was like, your dad and I lived in Saudi before living in Dubai. And she was like, I remember what it was like to live somewhere where I wasn't able to go to church. And she was like, I've always, since then, I've always known that being able to go to church is a privilege and something I should never take for granted. Well, and so for her, going to church every Sunday, that just became, or in Qatar, we went on Fridays because the weekends are Friday, Saturday. Yeah. It just became part of our weekly routine. And then when we moved to Arizona, there was already a community and a family waiting for us. So some of my closest friends and the people that I met when I first moved to the States were through church. And I'm still friends with them to this day. And they've been people who, we're not only connected through, religion, but also through culture, because many of the people who are in my church are Arab, from Jordan, from Palestine, from Lebanon. The best people, exactly. And we have good food together, and we have our festival every year where we do debke, and we eat and cook and sing and dance, and it's all of these things that bring us together as a community. So
that's really cool. Have you or has your family been able to keep that connection, similar to how you kept your connection to the US? Have you stayed connected to Lebanon and your family there? How has your family managed that?
I feel like for my mom's family, almost nobody's left there. They know where they're from. They're from a village called Douma in Lebanon. It's a beautiful village. I've been before. It's actually, I don't know, everyone who lives in Douma always tells you, go look it up. We're one of the top 10 most beautiful villages in the world. And it's a big selling.
What's the rating like?
I don't know. I have no idea.
No, I bet it's
but it is a really gorgeous village, and it has all of the red roofs and everything. So her family's Abdel Noor. And then on my dad's side of the family, we would try and go, when we were younger, we would try and go almost every summer to see my jiddo and my teta and all of like his cousins and our cousins. So, and I think being in the States actually gave me more incentive to want to be connected to my culture. I felt like when I moved here, this is gonna sound very ironic. Living overseas, like in the Khalij, I wasn't really like, I didn't have a lot of like Arab friends because the schools that we went to were international schools. My friends were Dutch, they were British, they were Americans, they were, but all of these people were expats living in like Dubai or Qatar for tourism, for oil, for whatever their parents were working in. And then when I moved to the States, I had this community of Arab Americans who all loved our culture. And so I was like, wow, this is really amazing. And I really want to know more.
And did it help in sort of igniting your political consciousness, sort of being around these people, this culture of yours, the contrast between that and your American milieu?
Yeah, I think before I moved to the States, I really had no idea that there were people who did not support Palestine. I'm not gonna lie. No, seriously. And then when I moved to the States, like things really shifted for me and how I think the way that I was raised, like I always viewed the world very like internationally. And then when we moved to the States, I became conscious of a very like nationalist stream that underlies a lot of like how a lot of Americans think about politics. And I have always been a political person. My family's very political. Like we have political discussions a lot. And so
how can you not be when you're Lebanese?
Yeah, no, exactly. And so I think that played a big part. And then just like becoming more aware of like things that were happening around me. Like I remember the Black Lives Matter movement happened in 2020, in summer of 2020. And like for me, it was kind of a shifting point in how I viewed like organizing and activism in the US, because I realized that there was a big community in like the organizing sphere. And I became conscious of things like race, and I was like, oh, maybe this is something that I should like read more and like understand how it's constructed in American society and how it impacts everyday things. And Phoenix has the most violent police department in the entire United States.
Really?
Yeah, like the
What an
Justice
achievement.
Department. Oh yes. Number one, the Justice Department wrote a report about Phoenix police because they are so incredibly violent against, and it's specifically like they have a really high rate of violence against unarmed people. And
From which racial backgrounds?
I mean, I'm pretty sure it was, I can't tell you the exact statistics because I haven't read the report for a while. But we also have had issues with, border.
Their immigration track record
Yes,
is not
exactly.
one of the worst. Yeah.
Well, and so I think with the recent attention to ICE and deportations and people being detained, maybe it's become more at the forefront of people's consciousness. But in Arizona, people have always been conscious of this because it's a part of everyday life for a lot of people. Like some of my friends in undergrad were DACA, or one of my Lebanese friends was telling me, and this was before we moved to Arizona, about this piece of legislation. It was called SB 1070 in Arizona. And what it essentially did was legalize racial profiling. And her mom is Lebanese, and she is kind of like an ethnically ambiguous looking person. Like she just looks brown, basically. And like because of this law, she was pulled over by Border Patrol, and they questioned her and they asked her, where are you from? Were you born here? And da-da-da. And she's an attorney, and she was like, I know my rights. Like, this is not constitutional. Like, you should not be able to just pull people over based on how they look. So that piece of legislation was overturned, but in the most recent election, we've had like regression and going back to legislation that is racially motivated and oppressive. So
I think you were talking about this a little bit in our class development class, and we were talking about mutual aid, and you said something that stuck with me, because you're saying people in Arizona have had these networks for such a long time, and they were supporting each other for such a long time that they knew how to deal like with ICE now in a way that maybe other states like don't know. And yeah, I thought that was very interesting.
Like one of a really cool like collective and organization is No Más Muertes, like no more deaths. And what they do is they go into the desert, the Sonoran Desert, and it's like the land in between the border of Mexico and like Tucson or Phoenix or whatever cities are around, basically where people crossing the border would be going through. And they'll leave like water, like jugs of water. They'll leave like food, medical supplies, things like that.
Wow.
They'll try and find people and help them because a lot of people do die when they're crossing this border.
I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to ask about?
Yeah, I know you were also involved in organizing yourself, like especially during your undergrad years, right? Can you tell us like how did you get into that? I know you talked a little bit about like the Black Lives Matter, but I know you were involved in several different movements.
So Black Lives Matter was like my like awakening to organizing and how it was operating in the US. And then for me, like Palestine has always been like the key issue. Like I just think that you can't talk about any type of injustice, oppression, violence without talking about Palestine. And I've always felt even before I started like to conceptualize of my own identity as being like transnational and not contained to like, oh, I'm Lebanese, I've always felt that the Palestinian struggle was not just like a struggle for Palestinians to partake in, but that we should all be conscious of it and actively participating in it. And so when I got to the University of Arizona, I found Students for Justice in Palestine, and one of my best friends now, she was running it, and we kind of, especially in the last year, which was the first year of the genocide, in our last year of undergrad, we were running Students for Justice in Palestine. It was really difficult because Arizona's a very it can be very conservative. But regardless of that, I think organizing for Palestine is difficult no matter which way your state leans politically.
But it was specifically difficult in some ways.
It was just the demographics of where we were
They
organizing.
weren't necessarily sympathetic to your cause.
So I would say that the atmosphere on campus was not sympathetic. But the atmosphere of Tucson as a city was sympathetic.
Interesting.
I thought it would be the opposite.
Because the community in Tucson has a lot of those mutual aid networks, and they have a lot of community-based organizing. So like their chapter of PSL, or their different chapters for Palestine organizing, or their different like mutual aid networks, they all kind of mobilized with us when we were like, okay, we're doing student mobilization. All of the community also mobilized together, which was really amazing.
As opposed to the university, which is a big university, right?
Yeah.
Big student body. How much is it? 40,000 students?
40,000 students.
Give or take.
Yeah.
And are they coming mostly from Arizona or different places? If,
Like,
you wanna
I
guess.
don't know the statistics. I would say that there's a good amount of out-of-state people,
Right.
especially if you're from like a northern state
And
that's
maybe
really
they're
cold and
attracted.
people are like, I want to get out of the cold weather.
Attracted to the party culture of the school.
Yeah, and it is a big party school as well. And I think the most difficult part about organizing is building a sustainable network. And with Palestine organizing, you see this, and it's that, you know, the movement kind of ebbs and flows depending on what's happening
Right.
and like contextually at the moment. So for example, when October 7th happened, all of a sudden we had this massive, you know, growth in like people attending our meetings, people coming to our rallies, people coming to our political education workshops. We used to have political education workshops and like 3 people would show up to them. And then October 7th happened, and in the months immediately following those, it would be like the entire room was full. We had to get bigger rooms. But then when people started to get burnt out again in the spring,
Right.
the numbers
And the
dwindled.
crackdown also.
And the crackdown. And it was really difficult, and we were navigating other like tensions on campus with administration. Arizona has anti-BDS laws, so the state itself has anti-BDS laws. So when we were saying, okay, we need to get some BDS legislation like rolling, it was like, okay, well, how do we do that if it's illegal for institutions to divest? Which, like, you say it out loud and it sounds ridiculous. You're like, how is it illegal for someone to choose to divest their money from Israel? But it is.
I mean, especially like since other movements, like the environmental justice movements, have been able to do it, and it's just like when it comes to Palestine, oh, we cannot divest, but we'll divest like from fossil fuels.
Yeah, and I think it was really discouraging in a lot of ways. But part of what we were doing was that I think, especially after October 7th, we felt this need, like we really saw the need to protect our own community. And we started seeing, okay, like Arab students on campus are being harassed. Like Arab students on, like my hijabi friends on campus were being called terrorists. Or like when we would table for, because I was not only part of SJP, I also helped found and was the vice president of our Middle Eastern North African Student Association. So I would table for Manasseh, and people would come up to us and like harass us as we're tabling for Manasseh. It's not like there's anything out there even like about Palestine necessarily, but they just see Arab, and it's like post 9/11, like you know, sentiment all over again, where people see Arab and like they say terrorist. And so we saw this need for like community to be built and to protect ourselves,
right?
Because the administration wasn't doing it. In fact, they were actively harming us, and they were sending out very like inflammatory emails or enabling like the harassment of our students. And so part of what we pushed for in my final year was the establishment of a cultural resource center on campus. And so they have them for different groups of people. So for example, there's the queer like LGBTQ plus cultural resource center. There's Force, which is the women's center. There is like African American Student Center. So all of these centers have a place on campus, but there wasn't one for Middle Eastern students, North African students, Arab students. And
even at a big university.
Yeah. And so we were like, well, part of what comes with these CRCs, cultural resource centers, is also an embedded counselor, and it's someone that you can report like hate crimes to, for example, someone that you can talk to about culturally sensitive like things that may be impacting you emotionally. And we were like, our people don't have anyone to talk to, like, and I think it's easy to kind of feel the guilt and like minimize your own like emotions and suffering, but we had Palestinian people in our organizations who were losing like 20-30 like members of their family in Gaza. And like, how are they supposed to then continue with their regular schoolwork? Like, how are you supposed to go to class and sit there and say, yeah, now I'm going to learn about accounting today?
Right.
Like, and there's no support for you.
And people are justifying the deaths of their relatives.
So
they're deserved.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's not just that there's no support. It's that people are in your face saying that you deserve this to happen to you because of who you are.
Yeah.
So we really pushed administration, and we said, listen, you guys need, like, we need a cultural resource center. And the person who was mostly responsible for this was my friend Fawaz, and he was in charge of kind of pushing this initiative through. And, you know, we did presentations for them, and there were discussions. And I just remember being at this table with all of these administrators, and one of them looked at us and said, well, you know, the Jewish centers on campus aren't going to like that you guys are opening this.
Oh
my God.
And we looked at them and we said, what? And I told them, there's Arab Jews who like are like, there's Iraqi Jews. There's like, what do you mean the Jew? Honestly, like, this is not about them. And why are we centering like what they could say?
Right.
Like, this isn't even something that they did say. This is something that they could say that was a concern. And then they said, if Israelis want to come into your center, would you let them? Again, like, I think
do what?
Let them into the space was the question.
What? Like...
Exactly. But then I was like, I think you're misunderstanding fundamentally like what's happening here. Like, Israelis don't want to be associated with Arabs. Like, the racism that they hold towards.
No,
like...
but it's also crazy. You want to set up a center for Palestinians and for Arabs, and the first thing you say is, oh, well, the Israelis and the Jews are gonna be like, hello, this is just
insane. Like, really
like,
crazy.
Enough with this rhetoric.
It's like recognizing Palestinian rights, you know, internationally is anti-Semitic. for
Yeah.
certain people.
And we were like, honestly, khalas, like, we're not going to have this same conversation over and over again about anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism. Like, that's why I really enjoyed, like, Mohammed al-Kurd's book, because it really is, like, at some point, like, reject the politics of appeal, like, and, you know, to an extent, like, we're interacting with the system, right? Like, we're sitting at a table with administrators. Like, they're going to ask these questions because this is, like, their concern is their funding and their donors. So, yeah, that was, like, really, but for me, it was shocking because I had never really, like, gone into a space, or I guess in my head, I just thought, like, people are being, like, slaughtered. And your concern is, how will the Jewish Center on campus feel about us supporting, like, Palestinian and Arab students? Like, get your priorities straight.
Very
Like, what's going
invalidating.
on? Yeah. So a a lot of my organizing
Tell
is
'em,
motivated
Gabi.
by anger. Also, no, seriously, I'm angry about it. Like, if you're not angry about it, you probably haven't, like, been paying attention over the past, like, whatever, 75 years. Like,
Yeah.
it's just ridiculous at this point. Why are we still going in circles? I'm preaching to the choir, but I know,
It's
but
a good question.
yeah.
Let's see. So you did that, and then you applied to Georgetown University for a master's in Arab studies. You
I
met
said-
great people,
The wonderful people.
great colleagues.
Best.
Very good. And you pursued a thesis track, and you carried out your research over the summer. Love to hear about it.
I'll tell you about it. Yeah, so
How was Lebanon? Let's start there.
Lebanon was amazing. I think it's a very special place to me, you know, not only because my family's there, but because part of my motivation for even going into this program was like, I want to be able to speak Arabic better. I want to be able to be closer to my culture. Like, in a lot of ways, I have been a third culture kid my whole life. Like, I've never lived.
How does that feel?
To be a third culture kid, it's
Yeah.
weird. It's like a feeling of constant displacement. Like, I don't really know
What does
where-
it mean? Why is it third culture, not second culture?
Well, I think the way I thought about it was that, like, I lived in a place that was not my home, like Qatar, like
Right.
Dubai, and then I have like two other places that you could consider my home. Like,
Right.
you could say, because I'm an American citizen, I have a passport, my family lives here, like, I'm American, and a lot of my, like, mannerisms, the way I speak, like, the way I dress, you know, these are very American things.
Right.
But then
You wear a cowboy hat.
okay, like, once. Yeah. And then on the other hand, I feel very, like, rooted to the part of me that is Lebanese. And not just Lebanese. Like, I think being Orthodox is a really big part of that, and, like, being specifically from my village and being from where I am from in Lebanon, like, it just, I don't know, it feels like something that is very integral to, like, who I am as a person. And so every time I'm able to go back, like, it feels special. And this summer was the longest I've stayed there in a really long time, because I was there for 8 or 9 weeks. And yeah, so my thesis is the culmination of all of these facets of my identity. You know, seriously, like, I always say in our class, in our thesis class, like, this thesis is just an extension of who I am. Like, everything that I write, everything that I read, everything that I did over the summer, it was kind of like from a place of, I want to know more about my family. I want to know more about my religion, about my culture, about my country, and our history. So I did oral histories with Orthodox Lebanese people in Lebanon. And I was going into it with the intention of, like, I'm going to record oral histories about the Lebanese Civil War. And I think what I kind of realized as I went was that I had to go even further back than the Civil War. And I talked to people about not only, like, how did they experience the Civil War, but also how do you feel today in this present moment? Because, and this is something many scholars have written about, like Sami Hermes, a lot of people feel like the war hasn't really ended. And it's not only because there's active violence happening against Lebanese people on a daily basis, it's also because any slight upset, anything that throws tension, anything that could cause like violence between parties or between sects, immediately people's minds go back to, oh, we're going to go back to war. Like, we're going to go back to a civil war. There's been no reconciliation for many people. There's been no justice or reckoning. After the war, people just were supposed to go back to living together in peace, but they had just watched like brothers kill brothers. They had just watched and that's the other thing is like I came at this from the point of view of like, why are you studying the Orthodox, right? Like why are you talking to Orthodox people? People homogenize Arab Christian communities. They don't look at the complexities of who are these people, where did they stand, where do they stand today. A lot of people in the West still have this misconception that, okay, the Lebanese Civil War was a war between like Christians and Muslims.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, this could not be further from the truth. Some of the bloodiest fighting happened between Christians and Christians. And with the Orthodox particularly, they have a fascinating history because, for example, as I was mentioning, in Beirut, like a lot of Orthodox people live in Hamra or in Ras Beirut, which is in what was West Beirut during the Civil War.
Which is a
predominantly Muslim area. And these people had friendships and community and like they built relationships with their neighbors. And like, my teta was the first oral history I did, of course.
That's wonderful.
And I was asking her about it and she was like, yeah, of course, like, growing, being in Hamra, or even being in her village, which was Keftoun, which is in Kura, she was like, we never like thought about what religion the other person was. Like, we just had these relationships, and my friends were Muslim, they were Druze, they were Sunni, they were Shia, they were Maronites, they were Orthodox, whoever. But like, we didn't conceptualize of like, oh, this is a Christian area, this is a Muslim area, like this type of thing. And then for that very reason, a lot of Orthodox people have I don't want to say a lot, actually, because my whole point is that I'm not homogenizing, right? There's been a lot of Orthodox intellectuals who have founded secular parties.
Right.
Obviously, like, you can talk about the Ba'ath Party, which was famously Michel Aflaq, but you can also look at Anton Saadi, who was the founder of the Syrian Socialist Nationalist Party in Lebanon, Hizb al-Qawmi, and his party was a secular party, and it was about like this relationship between all of the people of like the Levant, and how he believed in like a greater Syria, basically. And a lot of Orthodox people were very attracted to his ideology, not necessarily because they believed in socialism or they believed in a pan-Arabism even. It was because they liked the secular aspect of it.
Yeah.
And that was the most attractive thing.
I find something common in the Levant, like people, it's common sense, like a folk ideology, like Syrian unity. People just believe in it, like not on a political level. Like, you ask them, like, of course we're one country. What do you mean? I'm not even saying this to prove a point. It's just literally how people are.
Yeah, but I think with Orthodox people too, you have something unique, that is that Orthodoxy is almost like a transnational identity, because there's a lot of Orthodox people in Syria, for example, and especially in recent years where you've had displacement of Syrian refugees into Lebanon, you had a lot of Syrian Orthodox people become integrated into Lebanese Orthodox communities, or you have Palestinian Orthodox who were in community with Lebanese Orthodox. And then the way that the diocese is set up is that the patriarch of the Rum Orthodox Church is in Damascus. So technically the headquarters is in Damascus, but he kind of like oversees all of the churches, all of the bishops, all of the people who are in, all of the clergy, and then all of the laity also who are in Lebanon. So yeah, it's very interesting.
That's very rich.
That's really cool. Can't wait to read your thesis.
I'm excited to write it. No, seriously, like, I've been thinking about it so much and conceptualizing like nationalism, God, religion, all of this, and been doing all my background reading. But now as I've been transcribing, I'm realizing how rich my interviews really were, and how diverse they were, because I talk to people from all over the political spectrum. Like,
and I dare to say it's an understudied topic.
I think it is, yeah. The only other person I've talked to who has like subject matter expertise, her name is Roxana Maria Aras, and she's at NYU, and she's done a lot about orthodoxy as a way of living and like theology
In the
in
Middle
Lebanon,
East,
in Lebanon specifically.
Lebanon.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Very cool.
And I think with that, we'll end this episode.
Wait. Let's ask just another question. We can cut this small part out.
Okay.
2 minutes.
I'll
All
make
right,
it
Gabi. Great. We wanted to ask you before you leave, what do you hope to do after you graduate?
I am unsure as of now. I'm thinking we'll see. I'd like to do some more work on my research, like as a dissertation in the future.
Okay.
But I think not in the immediate future. In between, I would like to have some work. I'd like to have some money. I'm kind of tired of being
Money's
like
nice.
a broke grad student. Yeah.
That'd be nice.
But honestly, I'm just very grateful for this program and like not only the people that it brought me in my life, like truly, but also the way that it's exposed me to different topics, different experts in the region, and it's also allowed me to like pursue something that I'm passionate about. So
Any books you've enjoyed recently?
books? Oh no, you put me on the spot. I'm reading
You're a grad student.
I'm reading a book of poetry that's by my uncle. His name was
Oh,
Fuad
wow.
Suleiman, and he was from Kura. He was in the SSMP actually.
Oh,
And-
beautiful.
but he was a famous poet
Wow.
in Lebanon, or like famous in Lebanon. But my teta really wanted me to read him, so I'm reading a book of his poems right now. It's in Arabic, so I'm like struggling through it, but it's going well.
That's really cool.
Well, thank you so much for joining us,
Yeah.
Thank you
Gabi.
very much
It's
for
a
having
pleasure.
me. I've enjoyed it. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.